back to another exciting installment, a very special installment of Superhero Roundup here on SourceFedNERD. I'm Matt Lieberman.
I'm Sam.
I'm DJ.
Yeah.
Yay.
And we, for your entertainment, we did it entirely for you. We stayed here all day on Saturday and we watched all of Daredevil all at once. It was very grueling, very exhausting, but now we are here to give you our full season 2 review. We're gonna do a spoiler-free review, and then we're gonna do an in-depth spoilery review for all you folks. And I just want to thank everybody who watched us all day long.
Yeah.
Because there were hundreds of you, and you're really, really impressive.
We
We're
broke
champions.
we broke over 1,200 people watching, which was insane
Insane.
for watching an entire series.
There were some people that were saying that they were watching, like I guess in some countries they didn't have Netflix, so they were watching us and not watching the show.
Yeah,
Which, like,
they could hear like little
thanks.
bits and just
Yeah.
watching our facial expressions. Like, wow, that fight scene must have been really cool because
Really
they
cool.
screamed.
Yep. But then mostly it was just like,
Yeah,
just like people sitting on couches, me with my milky white thighs in my shorts.
that's what most
See what you
people
guys
came
missed?
for.
But really, I personally, let's talk about it. Just general thoughts on the season at large. Sam, we'll start with you.
Cool. I really like this season. The first half of season 1 was very strong. Was it was like a brand new type of show. It was very cinematic, but then it became a mess. It became garbage at the end, and like a lot of people are gonna be like, "Hey, that's too mean." I'm like, I don't care what you're gonna say, but with this season, the first episode was a little rough. You guys heard our first episode review last week, but after that, it just took off, and especially episodes 3 and 4, where the Punisher was introduced, and when Punisher and Daredevil were arguing about their ideologies, I was freaking out in the 4th episode with some like resolution with the mob and the guy from Vincent Van Gogh from Doctor Who.
Yes,
he was
Tony
fantastic.
Curran.
Yeah, he was amazing. This season,
Spoiler alert, he shows up. Vincent Van Gogh shows up.
Oh no, Vincent Van Gogh. But this season is miles ahead of the season 1, and it kind of is on par with Jessica Jones. Not saying that it's a better show or equally as good of a show. I was entertained thoroughly as I was with Jessica Jones.
It is interesting with this season, they become much more distinctive. Like, this is clearly a superhero show, which makes it much clearer that Jessica Jones isn't.
Yeah.
It's something else.
It's a detective show.
I mean, yeah,
It
but it's,
may be,
but it's
not
unlike,
even that.
It's unlike a lot of detective shows. It's a Jessica Jones show. But anyway, I'm with you guys. I'm with you, Sam. I really enjoyed this season a lot more than season 1. Because they did something smart, and I know this is just our spoiler-free review, but they kind of had arcs.
Yes,
like 4
and that's what
episode
I'm gonna get into, too.
blocks
Yeah.
that switched it up. So if you are binging it like we were, that they switched it up, they introduced new things. It wasn't the one arc that can get kind of, not that things weren't interwoven because they were, but it made it much less tedious and much more exciting and much more dynamic, because it felt with Daredevil season 1 that it had played all its tricks by the halfway point.
Sure.
And this is definitely not true for this season. I will say, I think the trade-off is that this season was a little less thematically tight, a little less.
Really?
And a little less. Well, some of that tightness was from the fact that it was just one point that the whole show was trying to make for one whole season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also, I think it was a little less cinematic overall. So overall, I think it was maybe a little bit messier, but a lot less boring. And that is a trade-off I would make 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Messy's not bad. It was maybe not totally, because I got that feeling as well.
Yeah, but I would 100% make that trade, especially for a superhero show.
Yeah.
I would much rather be a little bit messy and exciting and engrossing and involving and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good season.
For like, I'll echo you guys in that it's head and shoulders ahead of season 1 in every regard.
Yeah.
I made a video on my channel that was about my hopes, what I thought the show needed to do in season 2, and it was like a checklist. They just like checked off every last thing that I asked for. The character relationships are improved.
Yep.
The action continues to be exciting, and they're finding new and inventive ways to present it. The dichotomy between the Punisher and Daredevil really introduced a really interesting thematic dynamic of of why does Matt do what he does, which is further complicated by Elektra.
Yep.
I felt like the relationships were handled, with a little more sensitivity and certainly just of a higher, more naturalistic quality than I expected.
Yeah.
The performances across the board were improved.
Foggy.
Foggy
Yeah.
Nelson, far and away, so much better than last year. I do, and going back to what you said, DJ, about arcs, pacing is the big reason why this season works. And it's also the reason why I think it should have been like 2 or 3 episodes shorter.
And I think that's been true overall of all the Netflix series.
Yeah.
I think season 1 of Daredevil could have been 8, but both Jessica Jones and this season could have been 10.
Yes.
You could have
a nice
shaped
10.
3.
Yeah,
it would
a
have
nice
been,
tight 10.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite shows of all time is Justified. It's an FX show. It's all available on Amazon Prime. Season 2 of that show is one of the best seasons of a drama ever for me. And it comes down to pacing. There's clearly an Act 1, an Act 2, and an Act 3 across the whole season that connect to each other thematically, but ultimately do different things plot-wise. And the first act of the season is incredibly strong. I didn't have the issues with the first episode that you guys do, and I still don't. I think that it worked really well as a palate cleanser and to set the table for what was to come. And I really thought that the first 4 episodes altogether really, really strong. I thought that the second chunk, episodes 5 to 8, again, really, really strong. And then the last act kind of fell apart for me for reasons that we'll get into later in the show.
I think we're all kind of on the same page, though, that the weakest episodes of the season, for those of you that maybe haven't started or getting into it, prepare yourself, maybe the first and the last. Overall, not that they're bad per se.
Not that they're bad, because you still enjoy them. Yeah,
because I think one of the things was, we're talking about comparing it to season 1, our tone is kind of like, oh, season 1 was bad. No, it was fine. It just could have been so much more, and I think this season delivers on that.
I think so, and I think that we have to remember that the first season of the show, the showrunner left after the first 3 episodes were completed. Like the most of that season was not planned by the person who created the show, and because of that, you could see it fall apart. They were shifting midstream. They didn't quite know what to do with it, and it started strong, but ultimately wasn't perfect. Like, they started to recover some of that magic towards the end, but it was kind of a little too late. This year, there was a clear creative vision, start to finish, and I feel like the only parts of it that got bad for me, I'm going to say it's the same issue that Joss Whedon had with Avengers 2, is figuring out the things that will probably come into play in the Defenders.
I think
there are some things, or just season 3 of Daredevil, whatever comes first.
Right.
I think one of the biggest highlights is that the suit works now.
Yeah,
is that we were watching
it. Looks great.
Should we just transition now into
Before we do that, I kind of wanted to get a quick rate. I wanted to read a quick tweet that is spoiler free that I thought was really nice. Marco at not Mark Tad J.
Not Mark Tad J.
Better, more well paced than season 1. John Bernthal's Punisher was the highlight for me. Loved Elektra and Matt's relationship as well.
Agreed.
Spoilers, but it's really good.
Yeah, I thought. And I thought they did not only really good work with Punisher, but stuff I've never seen with the character before.
True.
And for me, if you're talking about like rating, like this,
out of 10, our classic.
This cemented that like Daredevil is my favorite superhero in the MCU.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Wow.
Like I want him to be, and after the way this season, it's like, no, this is my favorite of, like, again, especially since Jessica Jones is not really a superhero per se in her world. Like, of the guys in costumes running around, like, Daredevil's my boy. I really like.
Not Luke Cage. We haven't had him yet.
And I'm interested to see what they do with him and see whether he kind of splits the difference between Jessica Jones. But rating for this season, I'm going to give it a solid 9. Maybe like, I would say season 1 was probably an 8. 8.0. I'd say Jessica Jones for me is a 9.5. And I would say this is a solid 9 if you wanted to edge up, maybe a little 9.2 maybe. Yeah, really good. like if it was a letter grade, solid A.
Okay. Yeah, I would give it, I think the first half of season 1 was a 9, and then it dropped down pretty quick to like a 7, high 6.
Yeah.
Just that's my opinion.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and say your racist comments in the comments down below. Go ahead. But season 2, right off the bat, it just kept escalating, and it's a 9.5 for me. For sure. For sure.
For me, I see both of your points. For me, season 1 of Daredevil, like it had some high points. Like it has like 3 great episodes,
Yeah.
and then the rest of it is kind of mediocre. But I really appreciate what they were going for.
Yeah.
I feel like this season they really figured out the formula. They had some time like between seasons to really figure out exactly what they wanted to do with the show, and it succeeds wildly on almost every level. I would give it ultimately. I'd give it a 9. I would say that its best moments rival Jessica Jones, and sometimes in some ways even surpass it. Like I've had some time to think on Jessica Jones since we watched it, and I do agree with some of the criticisms that I've heard since. I feel like both shows have weak endings. And I think that's something that really almost every Marvel property, and I'm sure I'll get flamed for this because I'm generalizing, but like a lot of Marvel properties, they have trouble ending.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like Tim Burton in that way, where like it starts really, really strong. There's a lot of great world building and detail, but ultimately doesn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, yeah, usually it ends kind of
Flat. I would give this season. I would give the season a 9. I think that's fair.
super good. Do you guys think, before we get away to spoiler zone, do you think people could just watch this season without watching season 1?
100%.
There you go.
Could, but I think there's enough positive. Again, I those first 5 to 6 episodes I think are really basically once they finish the Russian arc. Is when things go downhill. That Kingpin flashback episode, that is the weakest episode of last season.
Boy, it's real bad.
And it's a clear demarcation. Like especially the first 2 episodes. At least watch the first 2 episodes of season 1.
Get to the fight scene, the hallway fight. Yeah.
Here's what I'll say though. I won't get into what until we pass our spoiler wall, but you will have far less enjoyment of one of the best parts of season 2
Yeah, if you don't watch
season 1.
Okay.
Like there's one of the best moments of season 2
Pays
off everything that you sat through in season 1. So I would say season 1, once you start to get bored, once you start to get bored, and that'll be different for everybody, then you can start putting it on while you're cooking, and then or doing something, and then season 2, just watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to watch season 1 to watch season 2, but it's recommended.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
cool.
All right.
Let's get into
So
spoilers.
before we get into spoilers, just a couple little business things. So a lot of people were asking us over the course of the day on Saturday, will our live stream of us staring at a television be on YouTube? Will be posted after? And we said yes, or sometimes probably. After conferring with some people who understand the law a lot better than we do, it could get us in a lot of trouble with Netflix and Marvel, two companies that we really, really like.
Yeah, and that, you know what? You guys should just enjoy it. Like next time, we're going to do it again for Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Just join us.
Just
That's more of
join
an
us.
incentive to join us.
Yeah, clear
We
your
have
schedule.
fun.
Yeah.
You know when the show's coming out. You know it comes out on September 30th, so October 1st, you just know to clear your schedule.
Like, think about this. I got a tweet right here from a Twitter user who said, I enjoy this more than my wedding day. So that's not a good
really
review.
sweet.
I don't know what to say.
I don't know what is.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what to say.
All right, so getting into spoiler territory. We're going to take this in kind of like questions. First of all, favorite character this season?
Ooh, boy. DJ, go ahead. Take it
Oh,
away.
you know what? For me, kind of surprisingly, maybe not. I was stoked on her on the trailer. I liked Elektra a lot.
It was a very faithful adaptation.
Elodie Young was amazing in the role, and she was a lot of fun. She brought a lot of energy, except up until the last 2 episodes.
Then it got weird.
We're past
Oh,
the
wait,
spoiler
spoilers.
wall,
Go
right?
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it was revealed that I guess she is the Black Sky, whatever.
It has always been.
When you say
whatever the
is
hell-
like, because the way they talk about it, you're like, you're led to believe there's a bunch, but there's
not,
Yeah.
whatever, we don't know what that is. Up until some sort of prophecy dictates that. She's amazing. Let's go back to the positive part. She's amazing. She's so much fun every time she brings in. It's a complicated relationship because the chemistry they build between Matt Murdock and Karen and Elektra, those 2 relationships you had, is so organic and interesting. And the difference with the relationship with Elektra is it's entirely toxic. You totally get why they're attracted to each other, but they bring out the worst parts of each other, but they can't stay away from each other. It's perfect.
It's really great.
But to be fair, all the characters are solid. Karen, Foggy, Frank, everybody that's like a legit character on the show.
Wilson Fisk.
Wilson Fisk, they do a lot with.
Yeah, he was much more likable this season.
I think because it's the antithesis of what's the problem with the hand. The problem with the hand is we don't really know what they want or why they want it or what their goals are.
Yeah.
Which was true of Fisk last year. It's like, I want to make the city better.
Why?
What does that mean?
Right.
Yeah.
In your brain, what does that equal? You know what I mean? But now he has a clear goal. He wants to get out. He wants his power back. We understand what he wants. So when he shows
wants
up,
control.
Yeah, it's so much more compelling.
It's a great, like, just hard character reboot. And like some people will say it's not a reboot, he's the same guy. It's really not. His goal is different because he's no longer in denial.
Yeah.
He's no longer in denial thinking he's saving the city. No, this is a guy who doesn't want to be boxed up, doesn't want to be powerless, is afraid when he doesn't have power.
Yeah.
Like, you see his vulnerability in prison. He will do anything he can to be in power, and he finally accepts that he's not Wilson Fisk. He is the Kingpin.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
So cool.
It's like, it's one of the best parts of the season for me. It's like such a simple little shift that makes him so much scarier than last year.
Before I could say my favorite character, I just wanted to say I was thinking a really better storyline for Elektra would have been if she ended up being like Nobu's daughter, because you don't know where she came from. It was raised by Stick, and that way she had some sort of the immortality that Nobu has in her blood as a way of transferring it to the rest of the hand. Because that like whole like mythology was so like vague, and like Stick just said it in one episode, and they never explored it again, and they never figured out like why can you not hear the hand's heartbeats?
Yeah, there was
why
that one guy that they got
dead?
in the morgue that was like cut open, but then Elektra kills a guy. It suffers from a lot of the similar problems that the League of Assassins did in Arrow.
Yes.
With it gets so broad as to it's just not tangible. Like we don't know what they want. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know. But here's the thing, though, they're still cool as.
Like that
when
scene
they're
when
flying over the side of the hospital.
Ninjas are always gonna be cool.
Yeah.
But it's just like a nameless, faceless organization. It's ultimately just waves of ninjas. It's like Star Wars Episode 1. It's like it's CGI fighting CGI. It's like they're just fighting battle droids. He might as well just be fighting battle droids.
But Matt, remember that shot where you're in the hospital and you just see those things shooting?
I understand, DJ.
Cool,
I know
though,
that was
right?
damn cool. It was damn cool. But it's like when you compare that to his conflict with Frank Castle with the Punisher, a person who is gunning people down and seems to have very little regard for innocent people getting killed in the process, that is far more compelling. That he may be responsible for guys like this running around New York City shooting people is grounded in character. It has stakes for him. And you know, we know that the hand is trying to get a weapon. For what purpose? To get more power? Well, it seems like they've always been in control since always, so why do they need more power? I don't understand this war. It's not grounded in anything. It doesn't really affect Matt at all. Like, it is a problem. And when she becomes the Black Sky and she's being put in the fucking blood barrel, whatever bullshit.
Blood vessel.
Blood vessel.
Blood vessel.
It's like when they decide this isn't, you know, a grounded story about a guy who puts on a mask and beats up bad guys, but instead is going to be like a superhero movie where we need a fucking super weapon and magic and bullshit. Like when it feels like it needs to be bigger. That's when the show dies. It was fucking cool when there was a giant hole in the ground. Great. Give me
we never found out what the deal was.
I'm sure we'll find out in season 5.
Wait, why were
they
the
satisfying?
The Children of the Corn and
that was why I say overall I think it was a little bit messier because we don't know like the whole conflict between should Daredevil kill and not kill. Like he chucks Nobu off the roof and we don't know whether he thinks he killed Nobu or whether he's assuming whatever kept Nobu alive before. It doesn't really resolve any of that stuff, which I think is a ding against it. But I think the journey what's the word I'm looking for?
It pays off.
Yeah, it doesn't. It overcomes it. It overcomes that shortcoming.
Yeah. But back to the question. Foggy was my favorite character because as soon as he started out in season 1, like he was really trying to be funny, or the creators were trying to make him the comic relief, and it was so hard to get through scenes with him. I know a lot of other people had the same problem with him. With this episode 1 of season 2, they still kind of had that, but then you saw a transition, and then the scene in the hospital where the gang member like breaks the handle off of the bed so he could attack the other guy, and like the way he handles that scene, because you're like, what's he gonna do? What's the goofy guy gonna say? But he completely disarms the situation, and
he's a legal superhero.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he is. It's not Nelson and Murdoch. It's just Nelson.
Yeah.
It's Nelson.
Yeah.
And now he's with.
Now he's with Hogarth.
Yeah.
Which I'm really interested to see. I have a feeling that and we'll get into this more, I think, in a later question, but the payoff there, it'd be interesting to see if they line up Matt, either A, now that Nelson and Murdoch split up, either A, he just is a vigilante full time, like he was talking about, or if, like, currently in the comics, he joins the prosecutor's office because now the DA's dead, that one assistant DA is now the new DA, maybe Matt could be the ADA. And then if Foggy and Matt end up on different sides of a case, maybe the Kingpin case. That could be interesting.
Hey, that was your pitch for a long time, but we got Punisher. We got
that, which
Punisher.
was way better this season.
Yeah.
Can we take the season like act by act, like because we have that like as part of Act 2. So like Act 1 is just it's Daredevil versus Punisher. Punisher is tearing up New York City. Daredevil's trying to stop him.
Yeah.
Lots of great highlights. The stairwell fight.
Yeah.
Great.
Hallway 2.0. Yeah.
Hallway
It's
2.0.
amazing.
Yeah.
And like you see the cuts. And if
but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Because overall the fight's much more ambitious. Daredevil's got that chain that he's knocking lights out for.
That's
and everything.
so
He's got a
cool.
gun taped to his fist.
But even before you're right, there's hamstring him. But even before that, we have the whole conversation where Matt's chained to the pillar on the ceiling, and it's just an episode of Punisher and Daredevil being like, "I believe this." And I believe that. And what makes it more that's been done a lot, but what makes it really compelling is both Charlie Cox and John Bernthal really, like, you can almost see it happening where they're stop acting and they're just like legit like arguing their points.
If someone was like pro-gun or
They
anti-gun, it
believe-
seemed like that doesn't matter. Like they're not going to change really. They're just going to keep arguing the point.
I think it suddenly becomes not Punisher versus Daredevil, but Frank versus Matt.
yes.
And like, hey man, why do you do like?
I love
No.
him calling him Red. By the way, that was really
It's
fun.
a brilliant scene, and it's really, really well played. We also get that heart-wrenching monologue from John Bernthal as the Punisher,
graveyard.
which like you guys nearly started tearing up.
Yeah, legit. Well, and that's where the real distinction, because I don't know about you guys, but most every time I've seen Punisher, it's like, oh yeah, he goes out and he kills a bunch of people and he's like a living weapon. It's like, oh, why does he do that? His family was killed or something. And he does like, that's not how they treat this Punisher. Like that is the tragedy that creates him is so ingrained into every cell of that character's being that he's a human being.
And it's like it's how they're able to set up a potential Punisher series.
Yeah.
Like they're smart enough to know we need to empathize with this guy. We really do. Otherwise, he might as well be a villain.
Yeah.
Truthfully, it's like television is a different medium than comic books. It might be one of the reasons why the Punisher movies, though they have their absolute fans, and I think that they're fine movies. Like there's a reason why they never caught on with the major movie going public, and it's like even though he is still a cold-blooded murderer, you have to understand why and see where if I was in that situation, would I feel the same?
People want human beings. They want to see superheroes. They want to see like the fantastic, but they still want to be able to connect with the person.
Yeah.
And with this, like they didn't need a flashback episode. They didn't need that. They just needed John Bernthal being John Bernthal and being a fantastic actor and just sitting down and telling the story from the point of view of a victim, somebody who went through something so tragic.
Yeah.
And the way like they handled the ultra violence in the scene where coolest scene when Matt walks through the hallway and he just hits his batons on the top of the thing to fuck with the
guards.
fucking Scooby-Doo hall
that was
door
fucking
scene.
cool.
Yeah.
That was so cool. And also props to Matt taking a bullet to the head and then losing his hearing, which was a great thing.
It was a great thing. I think they could have done more with that idea.
Maybe, but like you don't want to like
really
rest
come up
on it.
in the fight with the Punisher at the end of the episode, and I think it would have been interesting to have like Foggy and Karen like dealing with him too. But yeah,
Kinda cool.
fantastic.
Then the second act was Punisher versus the people versus Punisher.
People versus Punisher.
It was
right?
actually more the beginning of Elektra in the Hand.
Well, it was both.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like it was the
I see it as there's actually 4.
really.
Yeah, because you've got Punisher, you've got the beginning of Elektra in the Hand, you've got the people versus Punisher, and then you've got the climax of all your main plot lines.
Okay. Well, then Elektra in the Hand, when Elektra was introduced, that was a great reveal, and she was immediately likable as soon as she came on the scene. And I loved seeing them fight together because Do you remember the scene in the movie when they're in the park and they're flipping like 10 feet up
Yeah,
in
and
the
they're on
air?
a playground and all that bullshit.
I was like, oh wait, this is what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is what,
It's
So
an
that makes sense.
actually
Yeah.
effective and sexy version of what they did on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week.
You're right, but talking about effective and sexy, that episode where you get episode 5 is one of my favorites where they introduce Elektra, because you've also got Matt with Karen and the raindrop hitting
that
her
was so, like,
arm,
yeah.
and they go on the date and there's all the lights and she's describing it to him. It's like, oh my,
Yeah.
Not
Oh.
Karen. But then also that kind of gets like Matt fucks it up later in like
Yeah.
the season, which is like, come on, Matt.
Yeah.
Come on.
But see, that's why I see it as 3 arcs, 3 acts, because in the first act, Matt overcomes the Punisher, realizes that he wasn't everything that he thought that he was, and decides, I deserve happiness, and finally gets up the courage to ask out Karen.
Yeah.
The second act is his past coming back to haunt him and having to really ask the question, well, okay, I want happiness, but what does happiness look like?
Yeah.
Maybe being Daredevil is what makes me happy, and being with Elektra is what makes
Which
me
is
happy.
what he concludes at the end of the season when they have. That was the best part of the last episode. When, sorry, jumping
Yeah,
ahead.
no,
but
it's
when they're on the stairwell and like, well, do we die in the stairwell or do we die on the roof? And they have that heart to heart.
That was great. That was a great
Yeah.
scene for the finale. I liked what was happening in the middle. Oh, when it goes to the Punisher, you said that like Elektra and that's an intro, but I kind of want to just transition a little bit to when Punisher is in talking with Karen and Foggy and figuring out his case.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're not going to use the PTSD thing. That's not fair to people who actually have PTSD. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for what I did because everything he's not going to change who he is.
But they do interesting in the case of Punisher. They do bring up another clinical issue where he's constantly living through the
EED,
trauma.
it's like extreme emotional disturbance.
Yeah,
and they
that's
even
the-
show it when he's at the carousel just sitting there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's an interesting. Again, I've never seen something dive in so much into Punisher, the person behind the Punisher.
Frank Castle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really cool to see. As badass he was, you talk about him in the prison where Kingpin tries to use him as a weapon against Dutton and then all of New York, basically. That was another standout because one, Frank Castle and the Kingpin, Frank Castle and Wilson Fisk, amazing.
Yeah.
And then they lock him into a whole cell block and he has to murder everybody.
Finger
Yeah.
through the eye.
Yeah.
Finger through the eye.
Incredible. Well, that's honestly the high point of the season for me is so they have Act 1 4 episodes, Act 2 4 episodes, and it's Nelson and Murdoch are breaking up, Matt and Karen are breaking up. Punisher's going to prison, and holy shit, what's gonna happen next? Cut to Wilson Fisk getting into prison, and it's like we have that
flashback.
this
That was a great
flashback.
origin story for
It was
Wilson.
right, and it might as well have been his origin story.
Yeah.
It's like not the origin story of Wilson Fisk, but the origin story of the Kingpin.
Yeah.
This is where the moment where he becomes the Kingpin, and this episode felt like a great palate cleanser.
Yeah.
That really set up the stakes of our final conflicts.
And really established him. So when you get that scene, that amazing fucking
When he
scene where
grabs
where Matt goes to see him in prison, and he just yanks him out of the thing, and Matt tries to hit him.
Yeah. He has
And
one hit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just Kingpin basically just ripping it. You think this is bad? Just wait till I get out, man.
I own this prison. And then
Yeah.
like after he's having dinner, and then that's his exit for season 2 is when he's having dinner. He's like, I need to file on Matt Murdock. And it's like,
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
no.
interesting though because a lot of people talked about Kingpin when he severed that guy's head with the car door. That to me that was like Crime Boss 1. Oh yeah, he does something violent to establish himself.
Right.
This was the moment that I became terrified of Kingpin. That moment where Matt is essentially powerless. That was the moment of like, oh, this guy.
imagine if you were in a building hundreds of people, and they are all working for this person that wants to murder you.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, super creepy, super scary. But it's like at that point in Act 3 where Stick comes in, and I know you guys love Stick. I love Stick until I see Stick, and then there's just something
The idea of Stick.
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
There's something I can't quite get behind the character, and I can't articulate why. It's just not satisfying. And I think maybe it's just because he's so vague with what he tells Matt, and the material that he's given is so dry that there's very little enjoyment for me. I don't know.
That's what do you okay, so we have a lot of questions for this season,
Yeah.
especially with like the pit and the
Yeah.
blood vessel and Elektra and
And
Nobu.
who was framing the Punisher? The
That's
person
what I was
who
about
killed
to
the
bring
dad?
up. I'm
Right.
like, wait, was it Clancy Brown?
Yeah,
was
it,
that him?
Yeah, was it the blacksmith or any of that stuff? I don't know.
Don't know. Because there was a lot of people working for the blacksmith, so it
Again,
could have been a couple people.
Again, a little messy.
A little messy.
Those are the parts that are a little messy.
Still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Little messy.
Little fun
I feel
ride.
like it was the blacksmith.
Little
I feel like
messy.
that's
Probably was.
pretty
Of
clear.
all the questions we have, that's the one I feel best assuming.
Actually, now that I think about it, there was
yeah.
when the boat blew up and everyone died or something. I don't
Yeah,
really know.
I don't know what's going on there.
That was a big
But also,
battalion.
Madame Gao.
Yeah, she's
yeah.
always great.
That was as the rival to the Kingpin. Again, this season did a lot of good stuff about keeping you on your toes, seeding things in there to keep you excited, interested,
The
invested.
plot was always moving very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's only at the end of the season where it's just sort of like, we have all these weird children of the corn people,
Yeah.
and they're in
Yeah.
the hospital, and we need to go stop them. But then Elektra's the black guy, but I don't care. I'm still gonna be a good person because you want. It just like it all kind of slowed to a crawl.
Well, I think
A
what's
little
been
bit.
true of most of the shows that we've watched is that there's a little bit of fatigue at the end, and it's not just because we're watching the whole thing, because both Daredevil season 1 and Jessica Jones, I went back and rewatched on my own time at the normal pace I'd watched them.
Like a normal human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like one episode a day over a couple weeks or whatever.
Sure.
And there's still this kind of like, even though Jessica Jones, that I think it really ended. It really wrapped up its themes really well. There's just this kind of fatigue. Again, the idea that like you could have wrapped this up a few episodes earlier.
Well,
even though the difference there is 2 of Jessica Jones' best episodes are its last 2.
Yeah,
True.
It's true. Well, a lot of people complain every year about, oh, we only get 10 episodes of Game of Thrones a year.
Yeah.
I think that's the most we could handle. And a lot of people be like, no, I'll take 1,000,000 episodes.
You don't know what you want.
You don't know what you want.
You don't know
No,
what you want.
Like I was talking to, lucky enough to talk to a cable executive a few years ago.
Yeah.
Someone who works at Cinemax, and he said that 12 became the new 13. Like it was like shows, instead of being 22 episodes, we're going to do 13 episodes. Then it became 12 episodes with a slightly larger budget for each one. And then the new 12 became 10. 10 was the new 12 with Game of Thrones. And then True Detective did 8 episodes. And now 8 is the new 10.
Yeah.
And I feel like the shorter an episode order, like the shorter a run, like 10 or 8 episodes, the less time you have to fuck around. You start telling the most urgent, precise version of your story.
Yeah.
And I feel like these Marvel shows could benefit from, honestly, from fewer episodes.
Especially since it's not an episode a week. It's a binge.
Yeah.
Question for you guys.
Yeah.
What would you like to see Daredevil season 3, Defenders?
I want to see the return of Elektra. I want to see more Punisher using that Gatling gun and and it being explored. And I'm very excited to see this Punisher, this human being, interact with Luke Cage and soon to be Iron Fist.
That'd
Because
be
the Luke Cage
interesting.
trailer looked real cool.
Yeah, we got a sneak peek of the Luke Cage trailer. We have a little bit of that.
Little clip.
A little bit.
I want that
we got to see a
freaking
little,
soul. I want some soul as the freaking theme song. I want it to be cool as hell.
Great. I am excited to see Elektra leading the hand because it might give the hand some personality.
There you go.
What about you, Matt?
What I liked most about this season were the moments that it didn't just feel like Daredevil's show, and it felt like this is like the Marvel ground zero for street level heroes,
Yeah.
and we had the Punisher kind of doing his own stuff. I almost just wanted to feel like Daredevil has a goal for the season. He's trying to stop somebody, whatever. There are twists and turns along the way, but we see other Marvel street level heroes walk in and out of that story and affect it.
Yeah.
I want to see more of that. If we could get rid of the hand entirely, I would feel great about that.
They'll get
I know
a
that's not going
rebrand.
to happen.
They'll get a rebrand.
They'll get a rebrand. Like if they rebrand the way they rebranded Kingpin, awesome. And get him out of prison way earlier, in my opinion. Continue to build up Matt as a character and give him reason to doubt his mission. Reason to question whether or not he should be doing this or what's the point. The more we can continue to deepen the characters, the better the show will be.
He almost went through Spider-Man 2 with like giving up the vigilante thing.
yeah.
That would have been really funny.
Well, and interesting now that he's with Karen, maybe he'll retry that.
Maybe. Quick tweet just to read. Cameron Fitzgerald says, "I love the new season, especially the hallway fight 2.0. That was really great. Okay, really quick last question, just for funsies.
Yeah.
What part did you scream at the most out of excitement? And you guys know which one? Which did you scream out of excitement?
Out of excitement?
Or out of fear, because I think the part where I screamed the most was the drill through the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're showing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. I didn't think they were going to show that much violence this season, but no, they did.
They did. But no nudity. God
No.
forbid.
God forbid.
No
You can show the
movies.
Punisher, blow
How
a man's face off.
dare you,
Oh,
Marvel.
in, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, right in there.
Yeah, it would have to be for me either the hallway fight, the stairwell fight and its brutality, or when Fisk picked up Matt.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that was like,
or even just the reveal of Kingpin, like when he gets to the yard and you see that bald head, you're like, yeah,
Ball baby man.
baby man who's terrifying.
Baby man.
Do you guys want to see a Punisher show after this?
yes, I want to see a Punisher show. I want it to like feel. I say Banshee all the time, but just because it's an incredible show.
Yeah.
I hope that they take some influence from that, where it is a show about a criminal trying to do the right thing, caught in a bad situation. Like I want to see him going up against a wily criminal adversary.
Yeah.
I want to see him have to care about people, be forced into a situation where he has to care about people, even though that's not his strong suit, and just make it a character study. Make it a character study with brutal action.
Space Punisher.
Space Punisher.
That's all.
Frankencastle.
We came up Franken. Oh,
Frankencastle.
we're monsters.
Yeah.
Bring monsters.
Yeah.
All right, monsters in space. That's
Yeah.
my pitch.
Boom.
Guys, thank you so much for
Crushed
watching.
it. Yeah, we
Thank
got to
you.
wrap up, but thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with a regular episode on Friday,
Yep.
as always.
And a Batman v Superman review.
And a
because
Batman
coming
v
out this
Superman
week.
review.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
so
it's a
pumped.
big week for superhero
Oh
roundup.
man, it's huge. So tune in for those. Sam, any plugs?
Oh, no, just find me on Twitter at Sam Basher and Instagram at Sam Basher.
Cool.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at DJ Talks Trash.
Bam.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman. Check out that video I did on my channel about Daredevil.
Daredevil.
Tune in on Friday. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.